toll from the violence in Phoenix in KwaZulu-Natal has climbed to 36. Police Minister Cele says 30 people were shot, 2 others were burnt to death in that area. Another had been run down by a car. You may recall hundreds of people looted stores, shopping centers and warehouses in parts of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal about 3 weeks ago now. For more on how to confront race relations in communities in and around Phoenix, we can speak to the South African Human Rights Commission's Deputy Commissioner, Fatima Chauhan, who's joining us live now. A very good evening to you, ma'am, and welcome to News at Prime. So, how much of what we saw in Phoenix with the killing of these 36 people can we attribute to long-festering racial tension?
Well, it's difficult. Good evening, by the way, and thank you for having me. It's difficult for us to make those assessments. We are in the restoring and rehabilitating phase of our efforts. We constantly are monitoring the situation, maintaining an active presence. But what is very clear is that the devastation caused by the unrest has wide-ranging consequences in that particular community of Phoenix and surrounds, as well as in the other hotspots. We are learning every day as we continue to monitor on the ground the extent of the devastation that has been felt by ordinary people. I've just learned today of a case where a gentleman from Umlazi died because he was on a routine dialysis treatment, daily dialysis treatment, and couldn't access his treatment during the unrest because the dialysis center had been completely destroyed, medical equipment destroyed, and medicines looted. And he subsequently, according to his family, perished, unfortunately so, and very sadly so, due to the unrest. So these kinds of cases are being reported on a continuous basis, and it's really the extent of the devastation and the effect on people's lives has just been absolutely devastating.
And there are stories online of, and I'm staying with the racism issue because it keeps coming up when you talk about Phoenix in particular, people saying that they had been racially profiled and prevented from going into Phoenix, which is a predominantly Indian community. People saying that when you look at, for example, the number of people who've died, 33 of the 36 were black people. So how much attention are you as the Human Rights Commission paying to the race aspect of what's gone on there in particular?
Yes, as I say, we're still in the monitoring phase of the process. The issue of races has certainly been highlighted in the Phoenix area, but of course you would know that the Human Rights Commission deals with racial tensions around the country on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things that we as a country have to understand is that we haven't overcome our history completely, that racial tensions remain in various parts of our country. We, for example, deal with the equality courts, and we did a recent assessment of the kinds of complaints that we have received in the past few years. And what is absolutely clear is that those complaints that pertain to race and race tensions are in the majority of those cases that we've dealt with through the equality courts.
And what makes the situation in KZN, yes, we're using Phoenix now, more unique is that in South Africa, when we often speak about racism and tension between races, it's usually between black and white. But you've got a setup in KwaZulu-Natal where there is an underlying issue of tension between the Indian and black people who live in KZN. Why is that?
Well, I think it's because those communities essentially are located within the old apartheid spatial patterns, enhancing social separation. Also, there is a class differential. There is a clamor for resources. You would know that Phoenix is essentially a very poor community as well, and there's certainly a great deal of poverty and deprivation. These are just some of the issues I think sociologists would be better placed to indicate precisely where the schisms are. But in our recent Izimbizo that we held, where we invited members of the public to speak to us about what occurred and their assessments. Certainly the issue of race and poverty was highlighted. Poverty in the main, though.
Is healing the divisions something that should be government or community-led?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear your question.
Is the process then to heal the divisions and right what has been done one that should be led mainly by government, or will it have to be leaders from the communities themselves who take the people through what needs to happen next in order to get to a place where they can at the very least coexist peacefully?
Well, I think it has to be both. I think everybody has a role to play. Government has a role to play to address a lot of what is considered enormous deprivation, levels of poverty. But communities themselves and individuals have roles to play as well. At the moment, we've been very heartened by the fact that there are a dearth of community organizations, community leaders coming together, forging alliances and pledging to assist in the healing process. What we do need to do, though, is we need to be able to be very reflective and deliberate about how we address this process going forward. It shouldn't be an event. It is a process. I think what we are learning more and more is that we cannot be complacent about race relations, particularly as we labor under the spatial patterns and the separateness of communities.
And exactly on that point, pardon me for jumping in, ma'am, exactly on that point, the issue with healing, the challenge often is that you cannot force healing to happen. From your engagements with the community, is there a great deal of willingness to begin that process?
You know, I think we must put into perspective a lot of what has been blown up in the media and on social media and so on. I think what you have is a microcosm in that area, a little microculture taking root, where people have, over the last 20 years or so, forged wonderful bonds, and these fruits are coming back to bear at this time of crisis. And so we are very, very pleased with what we are seeing. We are very certain that we will make great strides simply because there is such a dearth and wealth of goodwill and social harmony already on the ground.
But there cannot be social change and harmony without justice for the 36 people who were killed, can there?
Absolutely, and we firstly from the Commission have sent our condolences to the families. In fact, I'm going down to the area next week, hoping to meet with some of the families as well. And we are engaging on a constant basis with the South African Police as well as the National Prosecuting Authority to ensure that precisely what you said now happens quickly, efficiently, and to the satisfaction of all concerned, that the law must take its course and justice must be served.
Deputy Chairperson at the South African Human Rights Commission, Fatima Chauhan, good to speak to you, ma'am. Thank you.